unfamiliar path with a pulse of its own.
3, 2, 1.
Final Encounter Cast. Interesting conflicts, not conflicts of interest.
Typical corporate bullshit.
With your hosts, Nate, Robbie, Chris, Nika, and Callie. FinalEncounterCast.com.
Ready? Get set? Go!
What's up? Welcome to Final Encounter Cast. Thanks for joining us here on twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio. Sundays at 1 p.m. You can join us live if you want to be a part of the show. We let you call in and voice your opinion. If you want to call the show today, Final Encounter Cast on Skype, 810-207-1764. FinalEncounterCast.com is the website. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, where you can find all 64 episodes of the show, going back to the very, very early days. What, about 2 years ago now that the show started?
2 years in June. Yeah.
Wow.
2 years.
Wow.
Really? Wow. 2 years?
Yeah, we're on our second year of doing the show.
2 years.
So,
Because we started right around E3 the first year.
We did. That's
Second
right.
year, we did that awful E3 coverage thing. And then
It wasn't awful.
Cookie did a great job at E3
No,
last
I
year.
mean, in terms of us, and we're like live covering it on the stream.
I remember Nate, and I remember Callie on that stream.
Yeah.
Were you there?
I don't remember
Yes.
so much you being
I think
there.
it was there for the Nintendo one.
It was me and Nate who had the most amount of conferences covered. Thank you very much.
I don't remember that. I don't
How
remember
come
that.
nobody remembers this except for you?
Because I'm the one who did the accounting for that. Thank you very fucking much.
That's suspicious.
That's a little suspicious. It really is.
It is.
Anyway, thanks for joining us today live here at twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio. If you want to call the show, we're going to be talking about a really interesting MMO today called Ashes of Creation. Now, this is sparked a lot of conversation here early on in the day today during the pre-production meeting. A lot of really interesting ideas, and being that our history is with MMOs, I think you guys are going to be really interested to take a look at some of this. So
If you've been waiting for the day where we talk excitedly about an MMO, today's the day.
Is it now?
Pull the other one.
I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so thank you guys for joining us. If you haven't yet, I really do want to encourage you to go over to checkpointradio.com, which is our brand new show, nationally syndicated radio show, as well as a podcast. We're now 3 episodes deep into the Checkpoint Radio podcast, and we'd like to encourage everyone to go and subscribe to it. You'll hear conversations that you don't hear on Final Encounter Cast or on Checkpoint over on the Checkpoint Radio podcast.
This last week was a particularly good one.
Yeah.
I had tons of fun.
So obviously, I think anyone who has been a long-term fan of Limit Break Radio and Final Encounter Cast knows how rooted we are in Square Enix and Square Enix products. Obviously, Limit Break Radio being for Final Fantasy XIV. Whose
that
phone
sounded like
was
Nika.
that? Oh, Nika. Shame. Anyway, so
I was nervous, though, because I do have that phone sound, so I'm like, oh, thank God.
No, that was me.
No, see, the way you do that is you just have like all your notification sounds sound like video game sounds. It's like, oh yeah, that was part of the show. It was a drop.
Oh yeah, that was a drop. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so on the Checkpoint Radio podcast this week, there have been rumors circulating of a Final Fantasy VIII remake.
Yes.
And
Is it a remake or a remaster?
No, it's a remake.
Like an FF7 style remake.
Yes.
In the actual quote, they said a remake in the style of what they're doing with FF7.
I guess I didn't read the article close enough.
Remake.
Cookie's trying to sell this like I had some huge meltdown. I didn't melt down. I was just kind of mad.
I really hope they get rid of the draw system.
Fuck you. No, why would you get rid of the draw system?
Is so easy to manipulate.
Guys, he's totally not melting down.
The draw system was the worst part of that game.
Oh my
Clearly
God.
need to get rid of the card system because that's just not needed in an action RPG like Final Fantasy VIII will be.
Anyway,
Kingdom Hearts 3 style.
we want to encourage everyone to go listen to that conversation. That's the latest episode of the Checkpoint Radio podcast. You can find that at checkpointradio.com. It is a production of Westwood One, and we're super excited to be able to bring that to you guys. And you know, if you weren't aware, Checkpoint Radio, what we're able to do with Checkpoint Radio, the opportunity that we're pursuing with this is really as a direct result of the opportunities that you guys have presented us with by allowing us to do Checkpoint Radio. And the only way that you do that is with your support by going over to patreon.com/Limit Break Radio. This show, as well as Limit Break Radio, is still funded by your support alone. Checkpoint Radio is still kind of being floated by our hard work and our efforts. It's not we have to wait. With the radio industry, everything takes a little bit of time. So you have to try to approach advertisers and get them to buy ad time on the show, and sometimes that is not the most clear process.
No.
And it definitely does take some time, even with the amount of resources that we have at our back. Plus, we're doing something really unique in the world of broadcasting. Like, this is not a topic or a subject that has ever really been attempted to have a full talk show about. So, in terms of sales folks, they're still kind of wrapping their heads around who exactly they approach to invest in the show, and we have to prove that we can make a superior product. So, we're still very much in the proving ground stages of the show. So, in that interim, it is really important that if you like the show, if you like what we do, that you go on over to patreon.com/Limit Break Radio and support the show, because we are leaning heavily on our enthusiasm, our will, and just our desire to want to chase the opportunity as much as we can to be able to do this. So,
and if the internet has taught us anything, word of mouth is the best way to spread awareness.
That is true. We've already gotten. I want to say the last time I looked on our iTunes feed, we had already had 2 reviews on the Checkpoint podcast. So I want to thank you guys for doing that. We'll read those actually on the next episode of the Checkpoint podcast.
Oh, sweet.
So, thank you guys for doing that. But we want to encourage more reviews. Leave a rating, leave a review, whatever you can. Just spreading the word about the show helps us out a lot. Like in the early days of Limit Break Radio, something that we were adamant about before we started the Patreon was, people would come to us and say, "Hey, we love the show. This is like my favorite show in the world." It's weird. Like, first of all, it's weird to think that like we're some people's Howard Stern, like we're some people's like never miss show. You know what I mean?
I think the one that surprised me the most recently was an actual producer, some type of tech guy from, I think it was Houston, posted on Twitter the other day. He's like, just engineered this show or whatever.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And I'm like, that's like an actual working professional person talking about us.
But that's the thing. I've done that job. You know what I mean? Like, I've done that dude's job, and I would have done the same thing if I had ever had to engineer a
gaming show like that?
A show about video games. That's exactly right. So,
from Pittsburgh. I'm sorry, he was from Pittsburgh.
Oh, he was from Pittsburgh. Okay, important.
It is. That is important.
Are you even trying?
Anyway, but yeah, no, we really want to encourage to subscribe to the Checkpoint Checkpoint feed, the Checkpoint podcast feed. Leave a review and leave a rating. Let us know how we're doing. And again, something that we did early on in the early days of Limit Break Radio, when people asked us how they could support the show, all we said was tell your friends, tell your link shell, tell people that that play FF14. And now this is, since this is a wider effort, tell your friends, tell your family, tell anyone that games, tell as many people as you can. Like, it's really about spreading the word and getting as many people to listen around the show as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so thank you guys for all of your support and the opportunities that you do provide us over at patreon.com/limitbreakradio. And if you want to support the show, give whatever is comfortable for your budget. All right, so let's check out what is going on in the news.
I'm here to do the news tonight.
And that's the way the news goes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this program to bring you important news.
Here's a story that's out of this world.
All right, well, Don't Nod Studios has officially confirmed a second Life is Strange game is in the works. Unfortunately, they also confirmed it will not be making an E3 appearance this year and weren't able to give much information other than the fact that it does exist and it is happening.
You know, I still have that game on Steam, like the entire thing, and I have yet to touch it yet.
Why? Oh my God, it's so good.
I know,
I
I've
heard
really,
it was
really
good.
been meaning to, but there's so many other games, especially within these past few months that have been coming out. I mean, it's been real busy months for some really big titles.
Yeah, as soon as we hit a good dry spell, you really want to get in and play that one. It's so good, and I'm excited that there's gonna be another one. There's actually been rumors of them doing like a second season of Life is Strange. Now they're just confirming there's a second game in the works.
Very cool.
Pokemon Go's Adventure Week is underway and is getting pretty universal praise. The event has rock Pokemon, including Larvitar, spawning at increased rates, and also has the walking distance for candy cut down by 75%. In addition, today, Niantic made an acknowledgement of the community's desire to be able to change a Pokemon's moveset. No confirmation that will happen, but they say we are aware of it and looking at it.
That
would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
10,000 dust to randomize it.
No. That's
I have
that's
enough
evil.
dust to make that worth it, though.
That's evil. No, I think if they did a item not unlike the evolution items that they have in right
just
now.
Put TMs in.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would be very cool.
I think that this has been the best event since the original water event, though. I mean, first of all, the rock gives some really great ones, including fossils and, of course,
Oh, please, that one
Larvitar.
where all the beginner ones spawned a lot. That was the best one. I finally had enough for a
Okay, yeah, I
The
guess
New Year's
maybe.
event was really good, yeah.
No, I'm definitely a huge fan of this. I love being able to drive along and just catch
I got my first Shuckles.
tons of Kabuto. I mean,
Good for you.
Has anyone gotten the shiny Aerodactyl?
I was going to say, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about.
is that
There
a
were-
rumor?
there were
that's a
rumors about
rumor.
that,
I have not
I haven't seen any pictures.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of it, but I can't confirm that they're not photoshopped. You know what I mean?
Where did you see
Twitter.
Okay, Twitter is bullshit.
Yeah.
Like automatically, I'm gonna go Twitter is bullshit.
Unless it's on Reddit or something.
Unless it's
what a world where we trust Reddit more than
no,
Twitter.
no.
In terms of
Silph Road.
Pokemon Go, I do though. Or
Silph
Silph
Road.
Road.
Yeah. You have to be specific on that because it is the Silph Road subreddit
Right.
that is specifically. Yeah, if I don't see it on there, I don't trust it at all.
Yeah, I've barely seen any Aerodactyl. Period. Like,
I
have
haven't
not,
seen
yeah.
any.
Yeah.
Chris has gotten
I've seen
two.
one nearby.
Chris
Yeah.
has actually caught two,
Yeah, I've caught
right?
2 in Flint. No Larvitar at all remotely, but I mean,
The
I
caught
saw
first-
two.
a Larvitar nearby, but couldn't go after it today.
So, like in the first couple of hours of the event, there seemed to be a lot of Larvitar
got
because I caught
3.
4. Yeah, I caught.
Nice.
None.
And
Zero.
I live in like a little backwater sort of area now too. So the fact that I found 3 in that first hour was pretty crazy.
I've seen the most Slugmas and Geodudes.
Yeah, Slug.
Oh, yeah.
Slugma's great.
And Omanite. I see way more Omanites than I do
Not
Kabutos.
Yeah.
me. Mine's the way opposite. for sure.
Slugma's so weird though. He's fire only. I mean, I know Magcargo has rock, but
Yeah,
like,
there you go.
still odd.
I think that was a concession that they made sort of late because I didn't see that much of an increase in Slugma early on.
No, I did.
I did.
Did you?
Yeah.
Right off the
Okay.
get-go. That was the first Pokemon I saw, actually.
Not to mention, I really enjoy the additional boost to my fire counter as well.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, I
not
finished
the
my
worst
fire
thing.
badge and my rock badge on this one.
Congrats.
The thing is I mean, I am using it as an opportunity to walk the Pupitar.
Same with my Chansey.
I hatched another Larvitar, so
So did I.
and so
Yeah.
that puts my candy count with a
I still
Pupitar.
hatch like stupid things like Psyducks. I can't.
Yeah, take
Well,
that.
10K is only for Larvitars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Well, my 10Ks all hatch into Pinecos. So
Oh my god.
Oh my
Nika,
God.
absolutely. I have 4 Fortress all off off
But
hatches.
see, the thing is, I've hatched 2 pine cones, and I still am like 4 candies short of evolving. Like, what's the point of hatching 2 and not even being able to evolve it? Like,
Well, just go walk it now.
You can walk it for 1.25K.
there you go.
I have great luck.
I'm going to change that right now.
I have great luck, like Nate, 'cause that first day I hatched 2 10Ks. One was a Chansey, which put me even closer to my Blissey, and the other one was a Larvitar, which put me closer to my Tyranitar.
Yeah, so I mean, I've got so I've got a good Blissey. I just haven't had the candy to pump him up.
Yep.
He's sitting at like 1400 or something, but he's got a really great moveset. Awesome moveset.
The best moveset, huge moveset.
It's great.
But the fucking when now you just totally derailed my train of thought.
Probably
Thank
gonna
you.
talk about your Tyranitar.
Well, no, but I mean, my Pupitar is sitting at like 70 candy,
right?
And I have no idea how I'm gonna get the rest. How I'm gonna get the remaining 30 candy.
You need to go
You got
walk
4 days,
30
man.
kilometers in 4 days.
Fuck that.
Well, a little bit more
I
than
am
that.
down to my last Pokemon that I can walk. I have Mareep, and that's it.
That's it?
After that, I need Unknown and Hitmontop, and that's all I have left.
Don't
What the hell? Damn.
I've caught 2 wild Hitmontop. I need Unknown. I need.
I've never. I still need a Hitmonlee.
You
I had one of those pop in my city the other day.
Hitmonlee. Now that I have a Kabutops, Hitmonlee is the last Gen 1 that I need. I have never seen one.
Honest to God, I have hatched more Tyrogues than anything recently. Like I have
Yeah, I don't have that
fucking
either.
tons of
I
Tyrogues.
hatched 6 of them.
Do they come out of 5s?
What?
Yeah,
They
Oh
do,
my
yeah.
God.
Wow.
I hatched 3 on like the first day of the water event, and I've not seen one since, and none of them will evolve into Hitmontop.
Yep, I got my Hitmontop Tyrogue out of a 5K yesterday.
Wow, nice.
Jeez.
No, my Hitmontop were I caught wild Hitmontops.
You did, that's right, here in Safari
hell?
Zone. He sent a picture of it. I think it had a Charizard hovering above it.
Yeah. It
You
is evil.
suck so
I know.
bad.
I know. And then on Sundays when you guys come over,
It's shitty.
there's just like
It's
nothing.
garbage. Every time we come out here on Sundays, it sucks. And Wednesdays. It's never good on Wednesday either.
Yeah, I don't know what that
not
is.
true.
That's crazy. But yeah, I'm down to Ampharos, Unknown, Tyranitar, and
Can you find unknowns?
Yeah.
Yes, they are. They do appear in the wild very
do.
I
rarely.
figured that would be like Ditto, like you just can't find it.
No,
No, they do out there.
they
There's
definitely
26
spawn.
different ones.
Yeah, that's
Jeez.
there's all the
28. There's
different
28.
all the
There's
different letters.
26 right
no, there's
now.
only 26 right now.
Oh, did they?
28 in Gen 3.
Okay, gotcha.
God damn, what else am I missing? I don't think I'm. Oh,
Meganium.
yeah, that's right, Meganium. That's it.
Also, I find it really weird just comparing Gen 2 to Gen 1. I didn't realize how many Gen 2s were only like no evolutions.
Until later.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, or
Like-
like
Or at all,
Dunsparce.
yeah.
Dunsparce doesn't make any sense why that never
Shuckle.
got another. Oh yeah, or
Quillfish.
Shuckle. Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
your beef against Dunsparce, man?
I
He
hate
sounds like
Dunsparce.
Dunkel.
Also, I always figured Yanma evolved from something, but nope.
he
all by himself.
does,
No,
but not till later.
well, Yan Mega. It's like 2 generations later that he
Right.
ends up evolving.
As far as
But
I'm
like,
concerned,
I just didn't
yeah.
realize that when I played Gold and Silver how few
Yeah, there was a lot in Gen 2
Yeah.
that just are one
just
stage.
didn't evolve. Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, Yanma just evolves to Ditto from here. Because every single Yanma I've caught evolved into a Ditto.
Really?
When I'm
Wait,
here.
Yanma can be Dittos?
Yes.
Yeah, any Pokemon can be.
It took me like 4 or 5 Yanma
What?
before I actually caught one.
I thought it was
really
only
young.
And it wasn't here.
Rattatas and Magikarps that could
No,
be Dittos.
well.
Oh, no.
No.
Any Pokemon can be. Someone caught a perfect IV Larvitar and it turned into Ditto.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking.
Womp womp.
How did they know that it was going to be a perfect IV?
Because they were using the
'Cause they're
Discord
cheating.
chat.
Womp womp.
Cheaters, that's what you get.
I don't know. I definitely really like the event. I've been trying to take advantage of it as much as I can.
Yeah, I've been out walking a lot.
Yeah. And I don't know.
I think Quillfish evolved. This is stupid.
There's a lot of stupid stuff in Gen 2.
Nika's still back on
And
the.
what, like Stantler? I don't know. This is it's weird to me.
Stantler is maybe the worst Pokemon. It's hard to catch,
Gira from
and
Gig.
it's only normal.
I hatched a Stantler, so it was-
Giraffe's at least half dark, isn't it?
yeah.
Psychic. Normal psychic.
Normal psychic. At least, okay, so it's like Stantler is just normal. It's not even part ice or something cool.
No, I have 2 Stantlers. What the
Stantler
fuck?
sucks.
Kill them both.
Yeah.
Grind them into candy. Put them into the
And I have
blender.
Pseudo-Woodos.
A Michigan teen has undergone a new therapy for video game addiction called Unplugged. The teen, who had been gaming upwards of 12 hours a day every single day, was sent along with counselors, therapists, and other kids with similar problems out into the wilderness. There, he learned survival skills, coping mechanisms, and got a chance to examine his gaming habits. After 10 weeks, he returned home safely, and according to people, much different, much improved. I don't know.
Wow.
His Overwatch game was just out of the park now.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
sure his gaming
Weird.
probably fell off.
Is this not 2017?
It is 2017.
People are still worried about video game addictions with their kids.
I mean, it's still a thing.
Yeah, I mean, this
Definitely is.
guy had been gaming 12 hours a day and was dropping out of high school.
But this is how you deal with it? Putting
Yeah, that's
them in
a
the
weird way to deal with
woods
it.
For how long?
No, this is how this. There is okay. So this really, first of all, this really pisses me off. This really makes me angry because there was a rash of these programs in the early 2000s that a lot of my friends ended up getting caught up in and sent to. Now, it was never for things like video games. I think Isaac ended up going, probably shouldn't be using their real names, but fuck it, I'm going to.
You
Isaac,
could just say they're a fake name, and then no one will know.
You could still even do the joke.
Isaac ended up going because his parents found cigarettes in his room.
That seems like an overreaction.
Right?
Andrew, yeah, it really was, because he wasn't a bad, the thing is that a lot of these kids weren't really bad kids, so they didn't want to get him in trouble to the point where they were sending him to juvie or getting him in trouble with the law, so they saw these kinds of programs to sort of straighten him up and send him to it's a little bit like a boot camp sort of thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is this like the 2000s version of threatening to send your kid to military camp in the 90s?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
It's a little bit like that, yeah. And let's see, Andrew ended up going for a variety of shit, but it was mostly that he spray painted his parents' basement. Like he was really talented at graffiti. Legitimately, he had a lot of talent at it, and he decided to practice on the walls in the basement while his parents were on vacation.
Treated or anything, or
they were just
concrete?
No, not concrete. They were like
drywall.
Drywall, yeah.
Who cares? You can just paint over that.
Well, that's what he was gonna do, but his parents came home early and flipped the fuck out.
Wow.
Ended up and Utah is the place that they end up sending these kids.
Utah is the place where dreams go to die.
And they send them and put them out in the middle of the wilderness and basically abuse these kids for 10 days. You sign away essentially any kind of autonomy that you have, and you're being monitored, or in some cases they really were just kind of thrown into the middle of the woods, and therapists and other folks would kind of just watch them from from a quote unquote safe distance, but they would do things like let these kids start to get close to exposure, you know what I mean?
Right.
They would if they didn't do what they said, they would take away necessary camping utilities and stuff like this. Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay,
What?
see now,
For real?
all right.
Yeah. It was, I mean...
To a certain point, sending your kid to quote-unquote camp or whatever is one thing. But once you're actually out there and taking away necessities,
yeah.
That's messed up.
Eat it, dick.
One of the things I remember, they told Andrew to do something and he wouldn't, and they took away his ability to cook food, his sterno, right? So he had no way, he had to figure out either how to build a fire or he was gonna be really fucking hungry.
What did he do?
I don't remember.
Oh, I hope he built the fire.
I honestly don't remember. But
We never heard from him again.
no, I saw him not that long ago, a couple of years ago at a music festival. But
This all sounds like if Ron Swanson were to join the dark side.
But it just seems like first of all, when parents of kids that I knew would react like this, it was in every sense an overreaction. You know what I mean? These were not these were not kids who were misbehaving, but their parents thought they were. Their parents couldn't control their either rebellious streak or their artistic streak, and they weren't fitting into the box that their parents were kind of building for them.
They weren't that perfect kid that you could show off to your neighbors at the community barbecue.
Right, and yeah, exactly, because they were fucking punk and goth kids and wanted to be musicians and didn't want to fucking, get straight A's, and they were operating. They were, and believe me, because I was one of their peers, I could see every ounce of talent that they had and every ounce of potential that they had. Right, like I was able to see what they were doing that was brilliant and ahead of its time, that their parents looked at like, this is a waste of fucking time. I mean, how often do we talk about this shit?
Yeah.
How often do we talk about how, like our parents would end up projecting on us like how much time we were spending with video games and whether they approved of that or not. And that was a source of conflict when I was growing up. And this was just a different, it's kind of a different form of that, where, these kids were, both of them are musicians. They're still musicians to this day. And that's what they were primarily doing, is they were exploring their artistic and their musical side. And, to be punished for that, to directly be punished for that, I think is hugely detrimental to an individual or a child's growth.
Well, even the type of punishment based on what the two of them did, like, all right, the cigarette thing, like, I guess that's one thing. But if he actually had the plan to paint over the graffiti, or the fact that you could just paint over the graffiti.
Yeah, he could have fixed the fucking problem.
In any other normal situation, right, the parents punish you by saying, all right, well, guess what? Now you get to paint over that shit.
Yeah.
And go buy the paint yourself.
Yeah,
exactly.
Or something like that.
Okay, hold on. What if the graffiti he was doing, it just didn't look good? He didn't have any talent.
Yeah, what if it
I
was
would send him
awful
away
graffiti?
after that.
And it has swastikas.
Wow.
I'm just saying.
That escalated quickly.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Wow.
No, but first of all, it didn't.
I'm going to say, was Andrew a Nazi?
No.
He wasn't a Nazi. No. Good.
Well, that's good.
And the second thing is so I kind of wanted to establish why I think programs like this are fucking horseshit.
Oh, absolutely.
And don't work. And they really don't work. Really, all they do is they scare the kid into submission. That's really all you're doing, is you're going, well, do you really want to go through that whole ordeal again? No, Mom and Dad, I don't. And then they just,
live in fear the rest of their lives.
Yeah, exactly.
So it worked.
Until the kid gets a little bit of autonomy, and then they go right back to where the fuck they were, like doing what the fuck they wanted to do.
Up until then, though, where they spend most of their time? Tumblr. And is that what you want, parents?
But here's the thing, is that, so this kid was spending too much time playing video games. Like,
why didn't they just ground him off the video games or take the video games away?
Well, did anyone figure out, like, what kind of talent he was working with? He may have been developing a very serious marketable skill.
That's very possible, too. He might have been the next Overwatch pro.
That's what I'm saying. Like, as weird as it is to say that, like, you've got to, like...
Also, taking the games away when you're trying to change a game addiction just kind of makes them want it more.
I think you're right.
That's not the best idea.
I think you're right.
Okay, but it is a little bit better of an idea than sending them to Woodland training camp where they take away your necessities.
Like, okay, look, if it's one of these...
but also you need to know your kid. What if your kid literally has no survival skills?
But these people obviously didn't. They didn't. I think that's the problem. These parents, they don't have the capable skills to actually parent. That's why when something small happens, they immediately send them away. That's not parenting.
Yeah, you're not wrong about
that. I think that's the frustrating part.
Yeah. This tells you so much more about the parents themselves.
Right.
This isn't going to be like an isolated incident where, just in this one case, these parents are normally very good and very nurturing, but they just had a bad idea once.
That's the thing, is I refuse to fucking believe that.
It's possible that they've tried other punishments. Like, this is probably not the first thing that they've tried. Like, they probably tried taking it away. They tried requiring them to do other things as well as video games.
You know what they probably didn't do,
and then they're probably like, you know what, this is the last straw. We're sending you away.
Maybe they should try talking to their kid and listening to their child.
I'm willing to bet they tried that too. Are you kidding me?
I don't know.
Listening? No.
I don't know. I don't know.
Like, how many times did my parents tell me, okay, you can keep playing your video games as long as you go outside for this many times a day?
Every kid,
are you kidding me?
Every kid that I knew that ended up getting sent to one of these programs, the bigger problem was the relationship of the parent to the child. That was the bigger problem. And that was not being addressed, by the way, by sending your kid 4 fucking states away into the middle of the wilderness. You're not, like, I think especially especially to speak to the two anecdotal examples that I've brought up here, is, later on, after an event like this, they went to eventually they went to family therapy, because that was one of the things that these kids intrinsically knew. Like, my ability to communicate with you has broken down, and we need to repair that. And the shocking thing is that in both instances, for both Andrew and Isaac, that maturity had to come from the child. And these were very, very smart parents, by the way. Andrew's parents were, one was a clinical psychologist and the other one was a doctor. Okay, you would think that they would have a little bit more of presence of mind to go, well, what am I doing in this situation that is really exacerbating or preventing me from getting what I think my child needs in this situation, and from reaching a point of understanding. And in all the situations, because there were about 5 people that I know that went through fucking wilderness training, is that in nearly all of them, there was an underlying problem that was just not, it had less to do with that kid and more to do with the ability of the kid and the parent to communicate one to another. And it's really sad to me, because you can sit here and say, maybe they did try this, maybe they did try that. You don't know. This could have just been frustrated parents throwing up their hands and going, well, we don't know what the fuck to do with them, you fix them. And to me, that's lazy parenting.
But it is also easier.
I mean, is it?
For the parent,
But
yeah.
if the thing is, if it doesn't work, then what?
You try again. Keep doing it until it works.
8 more weeks, go.
And
then I feel like if this works, then great. But if it doesn't, you could easily strain your relationship more with your child.
And that's the thing, is that it only works for compliance. It really only
Compliance will be rewarded.
It only drives home that you need to comply to be able to to be able to navigate this situation.
Yeah, or the punishments could get worse and more unusual.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's what it is that it's like a shock to the system, because one of the things that they don't tell you is that the people who run this program, they come get you at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Like, they come in your room, they with flashlights, and they go, you're coming with us.
Time to go.
Yeah, and hey, let me get my stuff. You don't need stuff. You're like woken up in the middle of the night. You have no idea what's going on. Like Andrew was like, I didn't know if I was being kidnapped, but then I saw my parents, and then I was really confused, because it felt like my parents were allowing for me to get kidnapped.
I'm not being kidnapped, I'm being sold.
Imagine the level of betrayal.
Wait, so they wouldn't have even told them, hey, we're going to put you in this program? They just like...
Yeah, no.
Yeah, in case you try to take off or
exactly.
avoid going.
Yeah, for fear that
they would run away or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm glad I took all those child grabbing classes.
That is kind of messed up.
And these programs, from everything that I've heard from them, are designed to make you comply, or you are abused, or you're made to think they can abuse you. Like, they make you think that they have complete and utter control and domination over you and your situation, and it's just like you said, Robbie. You comply for fear of the punishments getting more severe and more bizarre.
Yeah. And then you turn to one of those cases where it's just like, you read online all the time, I just want to be 18 so I can GTFO.
And Andrew, he was lucky enough to be given a tent. He said that, at night, he thought that the counselors would fuck with him, like come and shake his tent and prevent him from sleeping. And it's designed to push you as a human being. And I mean, you know what? If you're willingly signing up for something like that, fine.
That's one thing.
Fine. If you know what you're getting into, fine. I have no problem with that. But forcing a kid to go on something like that just because you disagree with what they're doing right now, I mean, again, like the supreme fucking irony of what I do right now in my career versus what my parents thought was good for my development growing up. Because there were two things that my parents tried to not curb my interest in, but make sure that I had a healthy relationship with, and that was video games and hip hop music. And what are the two things that I make my fucking living off of doing right now? Video games and hip hop music. It's supremely ironic that, the things that sometimes you're steered away from as a kid are the things that you end up making your entire career off of. You don't know. This kid could have been the next Hideo Kojima.
He's no dick.
He could have been breaking down games on a level that his parents don't understand, that frankly we don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, if you have that much of an investment in it, yeah, I can see how some people would think, oh, well, it could ruin your life and you're not going to be able to get anything out of it. But I think unequivocally, sites like Twitch, communities like Twitch, shows like this, the opportunities that people have gotten because of video gaming, it's a huge industry with a million possibilities, and walling somebody's opportunities off like that, I think, is hugely detrimental. And then basically subjecting them to abuse on the other side of that is, and of course this kid has changed. Of course this kid is fucking different, coming back on the heels of a wilderness survival training expedition like this. Like, of course he's going to be different. Yeah, you drilled the fear into him.
Yeah.
Good job. Oh.
Yeah, we're not happy about that.
Sorry.
Okay. GameStop has announced the return of the GameStop Expo, which will be a one-day event at the Sands Expo Center in Las Vegas. The event will also hold an Injustice 2 tournament, which can be bought into for $10 on top of the $40 admission, or comes with the $110 VIP package. The expo will be on Sunday, August 27th.
They'll also be handing out complimentary GTA 5 games, complete with meth.
Yes, you can also get your own little baggie crystal meth. And I don't know. It's hard to get excited about this with E3 in less than a month.
I know, right?
It says Return of GameStop Expo. I've never heard of
Right, I've never heard of this before.
Never.
I'm sorry. When I first read this, I thought this was the GameSpot Expo. I was like, oh, that might be pretty cool.
No.
GameSpot is not still around either. That's
No?
yeah.
They're not?
I think they folded, didn't
I
they?
get news articles from this. News article came from GameSpot.
Oh, okay,
so.
never mind.
Yeah. See?
Yeah, no, this is, I think, their 7th year running the expo.
What?
Yeah, 7th year in a row.
It's profitable?
I mean,
I don't know about that. It's
GameStop
It's not losing them so much money that they have to stop doing it.
Wow.
It is the first time it's ever been hosted on a Sunday. They say they'll think that'll help. I don't know. I don't know why it would.
This is very confusing to me.
Yeah.
Who would go to this? GameStop
Nika.
employees? I mean, is
People
that
who
it?
want to do the Injustice 2 tournament, maybe?
I bet Nika would go to this if it was near her. Would you, Nika?
If it was near me, like if it was in DC, I'd probably go. But I'm not going to travel for it.
I would if it was in Detroit, yeah, I'd do it. Like, maybe I'll see something cool there, who knows? But yeah, I'm not going to Vegas for that.
Yeah, fair enough.
In some sadder news this week, we bid farewell to John Saigon, who passed away. The 63-year-old, known for his work as Snake in MGS2, among a myriad other roles, passed away after a long battle with cancer last week.
That sucks.
That does suck.
Sorry for your loss, Nate.
I mean,
he was in the one game that I played.
Yeah, he was. He's good. I mean, he was a good voice actor.
He's Dash Rendar.
Yeah, you said that on Checkpoint. And,
Still true.
Yeah.
Ubisoft.
He's not canon, though.
He is. Yes, you're correct. He's not canon technically.
Okay, so get that shit out of here.
Wow. Okay.
I only like canon shit in my Star Wars. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're going to buy the new Battlefront 2?
Is it canon?
It
It is canon.
It is. Yeah, we talked about that. It takes place right after the Death Star explodes.
Yeah.
The first Death Star?
No.
No.
The second Death Star.
The second Death Star.
Is it the
fact that we have to be like, wait, the first, the second, the third one?
Was the Death Star, the Death Moon, or the Death Planet? Which one is it?
The Death Moon.
The Death Moon?
Yes.
Okay. Which one's that?
The one with the
one above Endor.
It was the it was the original one that just happens to also be the second one.
The one that had the teddy bear picnic underneath it.
Aww.
Oh my God.
Except at that
Can I play as an Ewok?
Except at that picnic,
No.
they were eating
No.
the brains of stormtroopers.
You play as an Imperial trooper.
Yeah, it is mostly.
That sounds like the worst game ever.
Oh my God, how are we back onto this? Like, we talked about this 4 weeks ago.
Well, it was on Checkpoint we talked about
Do we
it.
have like the
No, we
spread
talked
of
about it here
Bastion?
too.
We talked about it here too. Were you here that day?
Was I?
Maybe
I don't know if you were absent or if you were just not paying attention, because it was, the majority of these two talking and me interjecting when I could.
Well, farewell, John Seigan. Anyway. Ubisoft has confirmed the new release date of South Park: The Fractured But Whole. Originally slated for 2016, the game had to be pushed back a couple times and is now set for the release on October 17th. Yeah. It'll be releasing across North America, Europe, the Middle East, and Asia.
Yeah, someone bought I think it was Ryoku had bought this for me 2 months before it released, right? So that I could get the Stick of Truth as well.
Yeah.
Played through the Stick of Truth, is all ready to go on this. And I'm like, wait, it's not available till February 2017?
Yeah.
Then February came around. I think it was like March. I'm like, wait, isn't the Fractured Butthole supposed to be out? And like I went to Steam to check, and it's like, nah, late 2017. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
It's October 17th.
You can't rush brilliance, okay?
Are the Kingdom Hearts 3 dudes helping out with this?
I said brilliance, not incompetence.
All right.
Burn. Kingdom Hearts burn.
While many details remain unknown, it's been confirmed that a TV series for The Witcher is coming to Netflix.
I'm so excited.
Andrzej Sapkowski, the writer of the book series the games are based off of, is on as a creative consultant, but we don't yet have any casting choices or a production date.
I'm so excited. And I'm actually really excited that it seems like these will be based on the books rather than the game. Because I feel like when you try to turn a game into a movie or a TV series, it inevitably flops.
Okay, how often have they tried to turn a game into a TV series, though? Because I think that this is where a game adaptation could shine more, because you have longer to spend with the characters and with the narrative and plot than you do.
It's a game that's based off the book series, though.
The game is a sequel to the books, and I feel like if they were to take, there's so many stories in the books. There's 2 different anthologies of short stories, as well as 5 novels in the whole series saga, and I feel like anything that they choose for the TV show is going to be fantastic. And
or what they could do is just take Geralt. I assume the books and the game are both about Geralt, right?
Yeah, but
the kettle guy
kind of focused on
so just take Geralt and write new adventures for him. Why take stuff specifically
that's not going to happen. I mean, we already know that Andre.
You want this too?
We already know that Andrzej Sapkowski is a little bit salty on the fact that he sold all the rights.
Cunt.
He sold all the rights to the video game and got no profit because he thought that they would flop.
He's a cunt.
So he is a creative consultant on the series, so I'm assuming he's going to want to make it all about his books.
Of course he is. Of course he's going to want to discount the games.
But
of course he's going to want to discount the games because he's this crying little baby.
I feel like in that case, I don't feel like I have much hope for this, because if we were to look at some of the other analogs like comic books to movies or TV shows, usually when those succeed, it's because the people that are making them are passionate people who want to see the property, succeed and to grow. And knowing just the little bit that I do about this guy, I feel like anything that he touches is just going to be canceled.
Well, no, I think he's super passionate.
He's definitely passionate. I think he's just a little mad that he sold all the rights. And I mean,
it's like Jack Kirby with Marvel.
He made
the stuff that he does is very good. So I'm not too worried about it. It's not that everything he touches fails. It's just he's got a lot of emotion.
There's baggage there.
Yes.
You know who else has baggage?
The books are fantastic.
DC.
Everyone in Hollywood has baggage.
Wait a minute. Why did you bring DC into this? What does DC have to do with anything?
DC also has a lot of baggage, and a lot of their shit turns out terrible.
Marvel has a lot of baggage, though. I mean,
do they?
Oh,
but see now
they had 20 years of epic failure up until their run of movies.
Up until Marvel properly, the actual comic company, was the one in charge of it.
No, I'm talking with their fucking books. Their book sales were shit.
Oh, that was the industry, though, man.
The whole DC wasn't suffering like that.
No, they were getting their asses handed to them, and that's why they were a fucking bankrupt company.
Well,
that's why they had to sell off their properties to various movie studios in the first place, because their fucking financials were in the toilet.
Who's stupid now, bitch? Your first good drop.
So yeah,
it's hard when Nika talks over all of them.
Yeah, well, that is true. But the thing about this writer is that he made a really stupid business decision, discounted the games, laughed at him for the first 2. Well, actually, for the first game, the second one he started to change his tune a little bit because it made a little bit of money. And now that the third one actually made a boatload of money, he's pissed that he's not cut in on it. But
why did he not have some type of residuals or royalties?
Because he's a fucking idiot.
Yeah,
because he's dumb. He made that decision.
Yeah, he decided, he's like, you guys want to make it? He really honestly thought that CD Projekt Red was going to fail, and he didn't want himself associated with
exactly.
it.
You're some kind of moron, you know that?
And so that's why I'm saying fuck him. He's a cunt.
But I'm still really excited for the TV series because it's going to be awesome.
I mean, the TV series could be good.
Because I've read the books and the books are great, and I feel like they're all like prequels to the game, and there's a lot of characters that are in the games as well as characters that never made it to the games because they like died or just whatever else happened. And I'm just really excited to see that brought to the screen. I don't know.
All right, serious really question. Good. Is Witcher like Norway's only export?
Poland. And yes.
Poland.
Is that different? I just figured Poland was a place that makes stripper poles.
I mean, President Obama did say at one point that The Witcher 2 was like a great contribution to the world's economy or something like that.
Pretty much.
Good job, Poland.
In a surprise move, Destiny 2 has been announced as coming to Battle.net.
This is weird.
Blizzard says the move will free up developers at Bungie to focus purely on the game itself, while Battle.net handles most of the interactivity. As a result, the cost of tokens in World of Warcraft has gone through the roof. Dude, the economy went into chaos for a short bit there.
So Bungie's obviously still making it, but since it's being put on PC and Activision, I guess, I don't know where all the little company holdings and stuff is, but basically because of Activision, they're like, hey, Blizzard, help us out here. And so they're hosting it on their servers for PC users.
Yep.
This seems really weird.
It was. Like, when I read it, I'm like, all right, I mean, it makes sense, but I don't think I ever expected these names to be in this same headlines like this before.
I still don't know what to think of it. Like
Chris is really excited to have to play Destiny to get Overwatch skins now.
Okay, well,
which will inevitably happen.
Are we gonna play Destiny 2? Is that a thing that's gonna happen?
I mean, we've all talked about wanting to.
I watched that gameplay trailer on Facebook on a whim, and I'm like, wait, why am I not repulsed by this? Is this because of Overwatch?
I don't hate this, and I'm not sure why.
Is Overwatch a gateway drug?
A gateway FPS?
God damn it.
Yeah, I kind of.
I think I'm
tempted
gonna play
by it. I'm tempted.
Okay, stop. Are we tempted by this? Because I'm not going to allow this to become another fucking For Honor bullshit.
Yeah, that was $60. That was just right down the
Guess who had foresight there? Chuckstadamus.
I'll say this: the fact that it's on Battle.net means I'm more likely to play it.
Yeah.
So I guess it's not a wholly bad idea.
I mean, if it was on like, I don't know, like what's the Ubisoft one or
Imagine.
No.
Origin.
That's
EA.
That would guarantee I never play it.
Well, I picked up the entire Destiny collection for like $20 because I had it to spare, and I played through it a little bit with a friend one night, and it was kind of okay. So I haven't looked into like the gameplay trailer or anything, but there wasn't, I felt like, a really big focus on narrative type stuff, which for us coming from,
isn't.
Yeah, coming from RPG backgrounds and stuff like that.
No, there really isn't. You have to like, if you want information about the world or lore, you have to go to the website to figure that out.
And even in game, like was for me and you, one of the first things that sort of put this on our radar was the Nathan Fillion voiced trailer for it. Like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And then when you actually get in, at least to Destiny 1, like he's one of the class trainers, and he's there like maybe 2% of the time.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like Destiny is much more of an experiential game as opposed to a narratively driven game.
Oh yeah.
And anymore, I think that like narratives end up hampering MMOs. Like, I think if you put too much of an, I know that like
that's kind of funny coming from a Final Fantasy 14 player.
Yeah, but don't you feel like like the game is hampered by some of those aspects sometimes?
No,
I
feel like the game is only.
I think that's both Final Fantasy 11's and 14's strongest points.
Yeah,
actually.
I think that's the only reason I
people play games.
Yeah, I wouldn't play 14 without its storyline aspects.
Agreed.
I mean,
case in point, playing the patch for the day and then not coming back to the game.
Yeah, but when the writing takes a hit, when the writing takes a dive, and you can notice that plot points are going way too quickly, or that we're, that we're able to pick apart the narrative in the way that we do, I think that, unless you're willing to really have a clear vision that is long-term, that you can really flesh out, you can't really guarantee that story quality is going to be there. And I think that, again, once your narrative takes a dive, like I think your engagement takes a dive right along with it.
So you think then if that's going to be the case, just don't have narrative at all?
No, I'm not saying that. Because
I mean, obviously, yes, you do have points that the narrative sucks, and that's going to impact the overall quality of your game as well.
That's what I'm saying. Like in terms of, I think the way that newer indie developers are kind of approaching larger worlds or a larger scoped game. I think that's one of the things that's kind of naturally having to shift is the way that the narrative or the storytelling is being approached. And so you have games like Ark or you have games like Conan that are very, very light on the narrative and really more rely on the player history and the player-driven narrative. And I think that there is an element of that is really interesting. And I don't know how you balance those two. Like, I don't know how you have a dynamic world that reacts to player input and also have a story that isn't dictated in some way by the players, by what the players do. And that's one of the things that FF14 has never really done, where, it feels like no matter what you do in FF14, that you really don't have that much impact on the world, and really everyone is having the same impact based on what their progress is in the story. That, I think, ends up feeling a little bit more empty and less meaningful than a game or like that can really show you in a very direct way that your actions have a reaction and there's a cause and effect there.
Man, I wish an MMO would explore that theme.
Stick around.
Give us about 15.
That's right.
To answer Chris's question though about if we're seriously considering this, since picking up Destiny 1 and playing through that a little bit, that has sort of pushed me back and made me a little bit more, I think, realistic. I'm still going to be keeping a close eye on it, but it is, I'd say, a good contender on a future MMO that I might pick up.
The Venom solo movie has a few names out there now, with Tom Hardy set to jump into the Marvel Universe to play Eddie Brock. In addition, we now know that Ruben Fleischer, who directed Zombieland, will be helming the movie. Venom is set to debut October 2018.
My only concern with Tom Hardy,
is that he's a football player?
He's old. Well, he feels a little old for an Eddie Brock.
Yes. Yeah, but movie magic, man.
But now the darkness truly has adopted him.
But that's the thing, is that who's the current Spider-Man?
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland.
Yeah,
he's so young that how are you going to set up a conflict between Peter Parker and Eddie Brock?
It's Uncle Ben.
Yeah, with that big. With that big of an age gap.
No, I agree.
I'm still not certain Spider-Man's going to be in this movie. So.
Well, he might not, but I think that at some point they're going to have to. I mean, especially if Venom does well. Yeah. If Venom does well, then they're absolutely going to bring him into a conflict with Spider-Man.
Okay, here's a question, because it's been confirmed that Tom Hardy is playing Venom.
No, he's playing Eddie Brock.
Okay, so it's actually been confirmed Eddie Brock specifically.
Right.
Okay.
So and so that's my question, is like, what liberties are you taking with Eddie Brock? If you're aging him, how are they being competitive? Because they're supposed to be, in roughly the same age group, but if he's just another reporter that Peter is competitive with, that's fine. I'm totally willing to accept that, and I can see Tom Hardy as a bully. Like, I can see him.
Definitely.
I can definitely see him playing that part very well.
I feel like obviously there's a lot of hype behind Tom Holland's Spider-Man and the Spider-Man movie Homecoming that's coming out, which is a collaboration between Marvel and Sony, right? But we've actually, up until this point, we actually haven't even seen it. So we don't know that it's going to be good. I'm sure it will. But I feel like, how has Sony... Like, they still have no goodwill as far as I'm concerned, right? They did the first 3 Spider-Mans. Maybe the first one was good, but they ran into the ground. They ran the Amazing Spider-Man into the ground. And now they're already planning a Venom spin-off based on the hype that Marvel's built. And apparently this deal is only supposed to last for 2 movies. Then Spider-Man just goes back to Sony anyhow. I feel like they're just going to run him right back into the ground, do the exact same thing they did with Topher Grace, Garfield.
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield. And, before that, the original one, too.
Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean... it could go so many different ways, but I'm just happy that there is going to be a Venom movie.
Yeah, and I like the casting choice. I do like Tom Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I
if
think
it fails, it's not going to be Hardy's fault.
And I can see, I mean, much more than Topher Grace, I can see him as Eddie Brock.
God, yeah.
That
for
70s
sure.
symbiote.
For sure. and I see, I don't remember that much about Spider-Man 3. Were they classmates? Was that
no,
Parker's relation to Brock?
They both worked at the Daily Bugle.
That's what it was?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it was virtually the same from the comics. Because that's fine. You can definitely justify an age gap between those two because a variety of people work at news organizations. Sure. And of course, you have a young hot kid come in stealing all of your scoops. You're going to be pissed. I think, that could work. I could see it working.
Bandai Namco's ongoing VR initiative is now turning its attention to Evangelion. A new VR experience will be debuting this summer in Japan, allowing players control of either Eva Unit 0, 1, or 2 for the battle against the 10th Angel.
That's pretty cool.
What happened to the first 9?
Which one was the 10th Angel?
The one with the...
I'm looking it up.
Yeah, the one that knocks both arms off the Eva unit.
Oh, yeah.
The long blade arms.
Zuriel.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, apparently the demonstration of it starts up with you in the cockpit, filling up with LCL, making the neural links, and the finale of the event is you going out and fighting the angel.
I kind of think this is really fucking cool.
I would dig doing this.
I kind of think that this is definitely fucking cool.
You gonna fly to Japan for it?
No, definitely.
It's not that cool.
No.
It's cool, but
yeah. Dude, is it the rebuild version?
It is the rebuild version.
It is the rebuild version. That's a pretty.
I love
that's
the
a
one
pretty
article I saw that was
version.
like, virtual reality is allowing you to literally be in the Eva cockpit. Literally, I was like, no.
No, it's allowed you to
virtually.
Yeah.
It said it twice. Literally, I was like,
you're literally
I don't
using
think
that word
word
wrong.
thinks what you think it. Yeah.
A major court case is set to go before the jury, which will determine whether or not Valve actually owns Dota. They are currently suing developers Lilith and Ucool over their games Dota Legends and Heroes Charge. The crux of the defense will go back to a forum post by the original Defense of the Ancients modder who wrote, "Dota is now open source. Whoever wishes to release a version of Dota may, without my consent. I just ask for a nod in the credits to your map." More on this as it develops. This is going to be big.
That is a really, really big deal, especially because of how much money Dota 2 brings in for Valve.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
And Blizzard is also in on this lawsuit because they own parts of the rights too.
Who is suing?
Interesting.
It just says they.
Blizzard and Valve.
Blizzard and Valve is suing.
Yep.
Who are they suing exactly?
Developers Lilith and Ucool, who are making 2 games using the Dota
Okay,
characters.
all right. So the original modder said anybody can use this, just put me in the credit. Blizzard and Dota have been obviously the biggest users of it. Blizzard and Valve. And now that there's 2 new people coming in using that mod to make a game, Blizzard and Valve are like, no. Dota's our game. We're suing you for doing that.
Basically, yeah, because Valve bought the rights to Dota from the person who was kind of the director of all Dota-related things at the time, so they bought the rights from him, but now these companies are citing an earlier forum post from the original creator of Defense of the Ancients saying this is open source.
Wow.
So this is going to be a big
messy.
court case, and it's already very messy and very ugly.
Sounds like you shouldn't buy a freaking mod of a game.
Probably.
I think that this is some really interesting legal navigation that's going to happen moving forward with this.
Yeah, well, and the thing is that back then when Defense of the Ancients first came out, the Blizzard end user license agreement did not specify that they own anything you make. So you could make mods back then for games and own.
So are they trying to retroactively grab the rights to this?
They're saying the Ucool and Lilith are saying this is open source based on what the original modder said.
Okay.
And Valve is saying, well, a later guy, we bought the rights from the game, so we own it.
So
it's an argument about who owns it.
Right.
So basically, the guys bought the rights to nothing from the dude because he just said it was open source, and when
they're saying he
there's
bought
no takebacks.
Bought the rights from somebody after the original guy.
Well, I think that begs the question: if you make something and designate it open source, what happens if somebody buys that and decides, well, we want to make it proprietary? That source code is already out there. Right? If you unless you plan on doing
Nintendo carpet bombing.
Like Valve and Blizzard are doing here, and taking the actual modders to court. Like that's the only way to enforce something.
And
like
it's
that.
insane too, because like there's been 3 major modders who have at times been seen as the rights holders to Defense of the Ancients.
Right.
One of them went on to work with Heroes of New Earth. One of them went on to help with Dota 2, and one of them went on to work with League of Legends. Like so, it's all over the place now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so this is going to be a very interesting court case.
Yeah, definitely.
Dedicated fans of the show will remember a game we interviewed at E3 last year called The Surge, a Souls-esque game set in the...
Surge! Climbs over couches.
That's the best commercial.
The game was set in the future, complete with mechs and power suits. That game is now out, and it is... Did you guys get to see any of the gameplay of it?
I have.
Awesome.
I have.
You can, cut off parts of your enemy and make weapons out of them.
Yeah.
Like, your enemy's got a cool, sweet chainsaw, you can cut that off, and now you have a sweet chainsaw arm.
Sounds like Zelda Breath of the Wild.
I don't know. Like, I think
Sounds Firefly-esque.
Jesus. That it definitely.
It never happens in Firefly.
It looks cool.
It does look cool.
I like the power suits. I think my only problem with it is I think I watched maybe about 10 or 15 minutes worth of gameplay.
Looked boring.
All of the corridors looked the same, and I mean,
Yes.
it wasn't like 10 minutes of linear gameplay. It was like sort of like a greatest hits of like, here were some of the cool things.
Pre-cut footage, and you would think you would choose the most exciting stuff to show, right?
And it was just hallway after hallway after hallway after hallway after hallway after industrial hallway after
stairs.
There's a kind of a big boss here, and I don't know.
It's not like when you actually play Dark Souls and like the backdrop is half the fun of the game.
Fucking Dark Souls. I'm sorry. Dark Souls is masterful level design.
Oh yeah,
it is a masterclass in level design,
Capital
especially
M.
the first and third
Capital
one.
C.
The second one doesn't apply. It had a different development team and was not as cleverly laid out and was a bit more hub and spoke.
I think Zero Punctuation actually said the first and third one. It feels like they made the areas first and thought about how you're going to get around them second.
Yeah.
You're just a part of that world.
That's a
Whereas
great
the second
point.
one is more of they made the gameplay first.
That's a great point. Yeah. I love the way that Dark Souls designed their levels. So
After winning a $500 million lawsuit against Oculus over the technology in their VR headset, ZeniMax is now turning their attention to Samsung. ZeniMax alleges that much like Oculus, the Samsung Gear was developed infringing on their copyrights and using ZeniMax trade secrets.
So is ZeniMax just going around suing people?
And winning.
Apparently.
Especially with Oculus, the guys who went on to make Oculus worked with ZeniMax at a time.
All right. Is ZeniMax actually doing anything with VR?
I think so, yeah. They have aren't they part of Vive?
Oh, are they the Vive?
I think they're part of Vive.
All right. I mean, if they're winning, then...
I mean, they don't have to do anything with their VR technology to sue people.
Hey, at this point, they've already made $500 million off their VR technology. They're doing pretty good.
I guess just from a video game consumer standpoint, the idea that you have all these awesome VR companies, because obviously competition is good, right? You have one going around suing everybody else. I would assume that, depending on the amount that's going to hurt them in the short or the long run.
Right.
I hope ZeniMax is still, putting more investment into it instead of just being like, haha, you know what? Fine, we got our money now. Fuck you guys. Do your own thing.
You know what's better than competition? Competitive advantage.
Yeah, well, like I said, if they actually go on to do, awesome, better things, that's cool.
Platinum Games' new action RPG Scalebound was canceled and pronounced dead last winter.
Beats by Dragon!
But in a strange twist, Microsoft has now filed for an extension on the trademark for the game. The website remains offline and no word has come out on why, but the extension request suggests that they have plans for the title after all.
Yes!
They're not going to make the game. They're just going to make the Beats by Dragon actual headphones.
Here's the thing. I like when they canceled this game, there were a lot of people who were really upset that it got canceled.
Most notably Robbie.
Especially so far into development.
And the only reason I can figure out is that it was because it was a Platinum game. The whole concept looked
ridiculous.
Patently stupid.
Yeah.
Like the dumbest possible, most pandery, oh, cool, let's get all of the cool stuff that the kids are into and just mash it all into one.
Yeah,
I
kinda.
hated the concept of this game.
Oh, I know you
hated
did.
it.
I remember because it was during E3 that we all saw the original trailer,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
And the thing is everyone saw Platinum, and then they went, well, then it's got to be good. Like, fucking stop it. Like,
Yeah, not necessarily.
I am totally unconvinced that Platinum only makes good games. Like, I'm not going to argue that their games are bad, but, like, just by virtue of having the fucking Platinum logo on it doesn't mean it's going to be
fair.
good. Fucking stop it. If it looks dumb, it's probably going to be dumb.
But the headphones are awesome, so this game's going to be awesome.
Game's gonna be bumping.
You write on dragons. That's all I want to do.
Fucking
With headphones.
stupid. Fucking stupid.
What if you could control the dragons with your headphones?
With
Anyway.
your brain waves.
For more information on the news and other stories, you can visit Google and ask about it.
There you go.
Oh, boo! What was that outro?
That's what our outro is.
I like when you tell
We
people
don't post stuff to the website anymore.
I know, but you gotta have like a different outro.
You want a
each
new
time.
one every time?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Is that so much to ask?
Jesus, is it so hard that I have to be the only creative person on this team?
All right.
Wow, that is not true at all.
For more information on the news and other stories, Chris's phone number is 586.
All right. Anyway, thanks for
Was
the
that so
news.
hard?
God, that was a lot of the show.
It sure was.
That
That's
took a
because you
long
spent
time.
so long talking about how you like having your friends be trapped in forests and shit.
This was one, dude, where I was like writing out the news segments. I'm like, I probably should get some more news. We might not have enough today.
Yeah.
Oops.
No, I think that's probably
Quality over quantity, Kylie.
Anyway, all right. So, you guys have brought to my. I didn't even hear. I have no idea about this MMO.
Nobody heard about this.
I'm actually, don't say you guys. Let's give proper credit to Callie. This was a good find.
Good job.
Until this morning, I'd never heard of it either.
Good,
Yeah, right.
Good job, Chris. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We appreciate the contribution.
Can we at least give it to Kooky?
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm
Thanks,
sure
Kooky.
Kooky would have found it.
Anyway,
Kooky.
so all right, Callie, tell us about.
Kooky, go find an MMO that we're excited about. Good job, Kooky.
We need to start.
Tell us about this MMO, because I mean, there's definitely some really interesting concepts at work here.
Yeah. So
And please spare no expense about telling us about the game.
no expense.
Yeah, I mean, I want to hear all about it.
All right, Hammond. All right, so it's been created by Intrepid Studios. They're a team made up partially of newcomers, partially of people who did EverQuest, and partially of people who did XCOM Enemy
I was
Within.
gonna say they have a lot of games underneath their belt.
They do. And basically, it's a high fantasy setting, no faction system, and the theme of the game is kind of built around their node system. Each server is built on a series of nodes, which are represent different areas of the game. And those, when a server launches, there will be no civilization in the game. There are no cities. There is nothing is built or ready to go. But as you go around to these nodes and do things like gather or craft or fight or anything that gets you XP, those nodes will begin to become more civilized. So if you're crafting in an area, maybe a blacksmith pops up at some point, and as more and more people are attracted to the area, the city will grow.
The civilization is tailored based on what is being done, the majority of in that node.
What is being done and what natural resources there also will play a part in it, because what natural resources are there will influence what people are doing in that node. And cities can both come and go in this game. Things can happen that can destroy a city. If they give an example in the video where they're talking about maybe a city that's near a mountain digs too deep and unleashes a dragon that just lays waste to the node, and players there are left with the decision: do I want to fight the dragon, or do I want to pick my stuff up and move?
Yeah, one of the cool things about this overall, we talk about a variety of things that we like in MMOs, but how one of the big key points, or one of the pillars of it, and they talk about this in their video, is the narrative aspect. They want the narrative aspect of this game to develop according to what players are doing, that the world reacts to players, what we're out doing, what we're accomplishing.
Right, and we've actually got their Kickstarter video on screen so that you can just get an idea of what type of product they're trying to achieve, just in terms of, I think setting is really important, especially when it comes to, choosing an MMO.
It looks gorgeous for a Kickstarter game.
It really does. The thing is that, when did the Kickstarter for this?
Like 20 days ago?
Yeah, not long.
So there's a lot of development that's already been been happening.
They have a lot of skin in the game. They spent a lot of money developing this game before even putting it to Kickstarter.
Okay, so what are some of the big things, like, as an MMO player, that have really interested you or captured your imagination?
So what really caught me at first was the creator of the game. The very first thing he talks about is that he's been an MMO player for a long time, and a lot of the things that he sees in the current MMO market just don't appeal to him anymore. There's a lack of risk and reward. There's very much a sense of everyone can do everything, and that's not intrinsic to what he views in an MMO. And that's the sort of kind of like attitude that he caught. He hates the pay-to-win system, and he hates the cash grabby nature of cash shops and things like that. Like, those are things that he doesn't feel should be in an MMO, and that's why he's developing this with a subscription model, although no box cost for the game.
Yeah. One of the things that really stood out to me, I was going through the Kickstarter and looking at the FAQ, and one of the questions was, how can you build an MMO for $750K? Because that was the Kickstarter cost. Now, as of this episode, they're up to $2,200,000 with 11 days to go. But they said in the FAQ that this project is primarily self-funded, and we're dedicated to staying true to our vision and not being compromised. The core product can be delivered with our current capital and the crowdfunding goal, and going forward, they're dedicated to keeping their vision consistent with their philosophies. And as a player, as someone who's gone from MMO to MMO and, paid the subscription willingly and gladly, because if I'm playing something, I'm willing to pay for it, and consistently seeing it fail to disappoint patch after patch after patch, the idea that these developers, like Callie said, are putting their own skin in the game, that they've already contributed so much to this, and they're going at this with I think, not just design philosophies, but also business principles that you don't really see in practice with other companies and other MMOs, speak strongly to me, not only as a player, but as a consumer as well.
Yeah, and there's definitely room for MMOs to grow. I think that, in a lot of ways, MMOs have been sort of worked into a rut, and it kind of worked into this very kind of entrenched thinking in terms of what content rollout has to be, what the MMO experience has to be, what players need to experience, what content. One of the things that really attracted me early was the concept of the node system, where they are really focusing on, and here we are, we're seeing it being described here on the screen right now, where they're very focused on developing regions as regions and having each region be unique, not just in terms of what type of monsters you're fighting or what types of resources are there, but in terms of, the more player actions that are being done, and you can see it right here being built on the screen, the more actions that are being done by the player community in one area, the more that node builds up. So you just saw right here in terms of the video, you saw the settlement very early on in the process, where it had a single tent and a campfire. That's it. And the more that it grows, the more that you actually end up building a meaningful player city. And
the developers have said that each area will not be equal.
Right.
Not everyone has to see everything. Not everyone needs to have the same amount of influence or power. What you put into the game or into certain areas is what you're going to get out of it.
Well, right. And he also means that in terms of things like natural resources.
Right.
One area might have a mithril mine, and that could be something incredibly rare in the game.
Yeah, exactly. Now, another point that they made was, as you have these sort of like cause and effect with the different regions involved, that as a player city or as the player community starts to do more actions in one given area, that it sets off, as we're seeing here, maybe a gigantic dragon attacking from a volcano. Let's say you bury too deep within the volcano and it unlocks some big evil dragon that comes and attaches.
Like a one-time event type of.
It could be. Yeah.
I don't know that. I mean, yeah, it sounds like that's what they're committed to doing, to making an MMO that's much more of an experience as opposed to a kind of cynical gear grind or
a singular experience that you just buy, and anyone who buys it can go through it. The
idea that everything has to be equitable and everything has to be the same among all levels of play, and that
everyone has to ride the same ride.
You should be able to get the same amount of enjoyment out of it whether you're playing for 50 hours or 5. You know what I mean? Like that whole idea, I think, runs counter to what an MMO is or what a player base wants out of an MMO. Now, at least I'm speaking from how I feel. You know what I mean? I feel like, the MMOs that I've been playing recently have not lived up to this idea of a world that I want to continue to inhabit every single day, or that changes with my input. I haven't felt that in a really, really long time.
But I also wonder, like, when I first heard about this, like, coming in, like, say you come in 2 years later down the road as a new player, is your experience going to be cheapened now because, like, the world
it'll be unique,
or it's going to be continuously
that's what is unique. See, I think that, and I see a lot of comments in the chat here, because I think the design concept behind a game like this is so different from what we're used to in video games, period, that it's clashing up with how we think about this type of stuff, right? Like, when you buy a game, you expect to be able to go in and do everything that everybody else has, but they're not designing a game world so much. They're trying to design a world in here where, if you come late, you don't necessarily have missed something.
You missed the battle of Tremus because Tremus is dead and defeated.
Yeah, part of history, but there's still more that's going to unfold. Think of it more like in real life. There's lots of stuff that you've missed or that you're never going to get to see, but maybe you read about. But now as new events come out, you do have a chance to partake in those. They've mentioned that depending on how servers evolve, if there's more people who flock to the mountain cities on one server, then they might get different events or have a different history that unfolds to a server where the majority of the population is centered in the plains.
And it mentions that very specifically because these worlds are going to develop differently, different things will happen from server to server.
Right.
NPCs will go to different towns because they like certain things that maybe one server has that another one doesn't. Different people, the antagonists and protagonists will change from server to server because of where they end up.
Interesting.
I think my concern is that I've heard a lot of these kind of high-minded ideas out of MMOs previously. I think the one that I hold up as my favorite example of one that really overpromised and underdelivered was the game Horizons, and that was an Atari developed game. And when I was hearing about that in development, it was going to have the most amazing graphics. It was going to have a sort of Minecraft-ish like system where you could where if you chop down a tree and you made lumber out of it, that tree stayed chopped down until 5 in-game weeks passed or something, and something else would grow in its place. And so there were a lot of really fundamentally good ideas, and then when the product came out, none of that was there.
Horizons didn't live up to it at all.
Right. Yeah, I think the only thing that was there from the concept is, you can play as I'm a fucking dragon. Like, you could fucking play as a dragon. That's it.
But that's a fair concern literally for any game that comes out. Will it live up to what it's promised?
Absolutely. And I think what they're already showing off is very impressive.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
It really does.
And again, that's one of the things that impresses me, not just from what you're seeing, but this isn't just someone who has a plan that's coming and saying, give us all your monies and let me do this thing. They already have some pretty substantial groundwork laid out already, and now they're asking people to buy into it.
To make it better.
Exactly. And as I was watching this video and I was talking with Chris earlier today, what it seemed like they're trying to do is take a lot of elements, not just, these theoretical elements or things like, this system from this game, and put it into one, but they're trying to take a lot of concepts that work very, very well in a specific game. Like one of the pillars of foundation that they talk about is this idea of economy. And it's when they first talked about it, Nate, you were, kind of a little cautious about it, but essentially it sounds like what something like Eve has done with their economy. Now, I don't know if that's something you can program into a game or if it has to happen naturally, but in a game like Eve, you have this player history, right? You have things that are essentially just being driven by this population within a game itself, and I think that that's something that this game is trying to push as well.
Yeah, and I think I like that they're not using any kind of global auction house. Everything is, by the region. If you want to move stuff and if you want to sell mithril, you got to go to where the mithril is, gather the stuff up, go somewhere else to sell it if you want to, or sell it there if you can, but you're not going to get as much right near the mithril mines.
Right.
I like these ideas, and that is very much something that you did see happen and evolve naturally in EVE. Huge wars were fought over resource-rich areas.
I mean, see, that's the problem, is that it all depends on fast travel. Because if you can just fast travel to the mithril mine, buy low there, and then go halfway across the world in an instant,
nobody's going to buy that.
Then that's going to collapse the economy.
And I
don't think there will be a very much of a fast travel. Like, the whole idea of the node system and the region system seems to lend itself more to putting down roots almost somewhere
and building up and defending a certain region, as opposed to going out and being a solo adventurer. Like, this does seem like, the end game actually is like when you can buy a house. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be aspects of this game that are valued different from other MMOs.
Yep.
And I actually, going back to my days of Ultima Online,
Moonglow Defense Force,
I really do remember when in-game in-game property meant something. Like, it actually was something that was sort of critical to the game. And if you wanted a successful guild, like if you wanted to be in a successful player-run community, you needed to have those kinds of resources, because there were all sorts of very valid reasons, but when It does seem like it's a more thorough thought through idea for an MMO. So the couple of things that I didn't see in here that that make me a little bit concerned. I didn't totally love the armor or character design. I thought it was a little bit generic. The world design is a little bit generic. It seems like a mishmash of...
You've seen it all before.
Generic fantasy junk.
Yeah, it gives off an Elder Scrolls vibe to me.
It is definitely influenced by Elder Scrolls. I think a little bit influenced by, like just kind of traditional, more straight ahead D&D style, like... what's the game I'm trying to think of?
Pathfinder?
No, not Pathfinder, but that you might be...
Like Neverwinter Nights?
Thank you. That's what I was going for, was Neverwinter.
Yeah.
I think I get a definite that definite generic fantasy vibe off of it. And there's nothing in there about the combat system or what the combat system will be like.
We saw them about that.
Yeah, we saw them, showing off the ability to like levitate, and the ability to break through layers of the world. I think that's really cool. That's something that they borrowed from EverQuest Next,
which is also there's a bunch of someone in chat said, "Oh, this looks like EverQuest Next," and I think a lot of the developers that worked on that are also involved on this project as well. But there was one part of the video too where we saw what looked like four like hotkeys down on the bottom.
Right. So, I think the other thing to kind of double back onto the node system and why I think that's so interesting is, it does encourage you to put down roots, defend places, but I think along with that comes a less contrived version of PvP too. Because right now, what do you have? You have a whole bunch of different faction systems. Like World of Warcraft, you've got Horde and Alliance. Final Fantasy 14, you've got the 3 different nations. There's some kind of pretext that gives you a reason why you're fighting each other, right? And I think the reason that you're battling is kind of intrinsic. Like, you're defending your area because it's a resource-rich area.
You'll form your own faction.
Exactly. Something that we see happen quite organically with a game like EVE. And I think, Callie, when you drew the parallels to EVE, I think that's really what got me really interested, because I don't have that much of a context for EVE. Like, EVE was one of the MMOs, because it was set in space, I couldn't get into as an MMO.
Right.
And that's my own fault. Well, so I don't know what its virtues are. So
but I do remember people like Kyle talking about even how there was last year this big huge player run war that's going down in the EVE history books, and nothing like this will ever happen again. And I was like, that's really kind of an interesting concept for a game.
And you hear stuff like that happen every few months with EVE. They usually make the headlines for some type of record that they've set or something like that.
Think about
not even a game.
A group like Goon Swarm in EVE, they were super powerful, not only because they had so many people, but because of the systems that they owned were really heavy in resources.
Yeah.
And that's what eventually sparked one of those wars, was a group trying to move in and take over those resources.
I think what it seems like is, this game is very focused on a organic world design, and then they're doing things like setting up conflicts like you would see in either the real world or that have worked in other virtual environments, and they're just very purposely putting the dominoes in there, putting the hints of that in there to kind of guide their player community, but that in the end, this is all going to be contingent on the way that the players end up, relating to one another. And I don't think that it's a bad idea to have maybe, one region in there that is so dominant that it just builds and builds builds one node to, this unbelievable status. And then you do have that ability to have, kind of subterfuge and subversion and coming in.
I can't take over them. They've got sweet resources. Maybe if I get this other group here, we can start a war.
Even the idea that, like you said, if there's one particular node, let's use the example they use, where there's this city that's built into a mountainside, and they become this unstoppable force that dominates the server, and then one weekend you hear that entire city has been wiped out because they dug too deep, and a dragon came out and demolished everything. That node now has to rise back up from nothing, and it gives other places, other factions, or groups that have been formed a chance to take over. Like you're building into your game a way for the players themselves to craft their own experience.
I love this idea of having a big event that you can respond to, like a dragon attacking, right? Mm-hmm. You go, you respond to it, whatever, the big community of the big group of people end up taking down this dragon, and now you're looking at each other after that dragon is dead, going like, okay, who's going to stab me in the back and try to build this node up?
The new regime shall rise.
I fucking love this idea.
On top of that, though, because you talk about having this idea of like this event, right? And in modern day MMOs that we have now, that's a patch that would be announced, right? Next month, the dragon awakens. But what's even cooler is this idea that you wake up and you hear about this long battle that's been going on for the past couple hours because the dragon just randomly appeared.
Yeah.
And one of their lead developer talks about this because PvP is one of the 4 tenets of the game that they're working on. He specifically mentions PvP is designed to catalyze change in the environment. That's what it's there for.
Yes.
Their key design philosophy there is PvP is meant to facilitate the idea that players want different things from MMOs. And that's kind of how they're using PvP to
and that the struggle between those desires should be the thing that drives the PvP element instead of this,
arbitrary point system to get better gear.
Right. I think and that was the thing that was so attractive about PvP in early MMOs, because you did have some of that, right? Like and early on, one of the red flags for me when talking about this game was I was really concerned about the economic aspect and the way that different regions would be separate from one another and
have their own auction houses.
How basically during the Kickstarter video they kind of poo-pooed the idea of having a global auction house, and I was like, I don't know if that's the best in terms of practical design for your player base, but the way that you lay it out, where there's a struggle for resources and things like that, I think that is intrinsically more interesting as a player, even though it is an inconvenience, and it kind of, hit me that we have been trading off convenience for immersion in MMOs for a long fucking time. And I think that it's nice to have someone finally coming in and going, no. We're gonna try something entirely different. Because when the entire industry is sort of doing the whole follow the leader routine, it does present an opportunity for you to, if everyone's going right, you go left. And I think that this team has some very good insights about what drives MMOs and MMO player bases, and I really, really hope that this is going to be good and that it's not going to be one of those another one of those Kickstarter disasters.
That is a great observation, Nate, about how this team seems to have taken a look at the industry, seen how everyone's been going in one direction. They want to go a different direction. action, and how they've also seemed in certain cases to sort of, because you're right, a lot of people have claimed to do this type of stuff before, but they seem to have, plans or contingencies for certain pitfalls. A lot of the sentiments that are popping up in chat right now is, oh yeah, I love this idea of, hey, I'm new guys, what do I, ganked, out killing some orcs, ganked, and stuff like that.
Love it.
But other games have also done stuff like that before, and that type of thing can be a detriment to
suck a dick, dumb shit.
Certain players.
Go build up, some backup armor that you can rely on when you get.
It's also easy enough to put in something like, if they're level 5 or below, you can't kill them.
No, not even that. You should be able to kill everyone. But again, if this is something that's player run, if there are people who are just mostly going around randomly killing people with, without gaining anything, like, I'm just going to kill people because I'm a dick, then there's probably, I could also see there being a system where you gain notoriety and maybe you have a bounty, and the more you do that, now suddenly if you are that dick, you are actually worth more to other players to kill you.
Everyone forgets about the PK bounty system.
Yes, they could put systems that make it so that either it looks unattractive to you as the person killing, or like you can build punishments in like that.
And keep in mind,
actually that can create in-game, like, I almost want to say like white knights for new players, where people create their own alliances of like, hey, let's go protect newbies, but also get points for doing so.
Also keep in mind that your node's development is contingent on earning XP, and killing lobies isn't getting you XP. You're actually harming your node.
So there just needs to be proper incentive and consequences to every type of action, even if it's as simple as killing a newbie.
And who's going to be carrying better gear? Who's going to be carrying more money? Really? The newbies? Yeah, you can farm newbies like level 2 boar if you want to, but you're going to raise your notoriety, you're going to raise the bounty on your head. There's going to be more of an incentive for someone to kill you than you're able to make off of killing those fucking newbies.
And this provides an actual incentive for a higher level player like Nika to go to a low level zone and protect newbies, because you're probably getting stuff from killing all of these high level assholes who are harassing your noobs.
Yeah, you know what? For
noob farms.
For all of the criticism that FF11 gets, one of the things that was really fascinating was the way that people would help one another, because everything required somebody else to do it with you. There was so little ability to solo in that game that you saw people who would sit on their, level 75 white mages and heal a party in the dunes because they didn't have anything else to do, because they just felt like it. And I think that is a really interesting idea, and the node system is something that kind of lends itself to that idea. If you want to have a good lobby experience where you're not constantly being ganked, well then I think you should probably choose a pretty well built up node, don't you?
Someone's saying, so going to other nodes and killing noobs will be detrimental to your enemy's nodes, so there's some incentive there too.
That's interesting.
There's all kinds of stuff. Yeah. They could also just do something like Blizzard does, where you turn on a PvP flag.
What if you're so attached to a node that your actions, your moral actions in the game, flagged, with a binary good or bad, that your negative actions add to the notoriety of that entire node. So if you have a big collection of player killers and they want to develop their own city of...
Turns into more of like a thieves guild type place.
It's going to become like, if you want to kill if you want to be the villains, you join this faction.
It's fucking Isengard.
I love... Dude, come on. If this isn't the greatest... Like, I want this now. Like, that to me...
This is the line from the developer that actually sold me on the game.
All right.
It's in regards to PvP. If you own a home in a node and you don't want to see it destroyed, you'd better be ready to defend that node. That's actual risk and reward. You can lose something you've put effort into. Thank you.
Now, again, there's also a quote somewhere too that mentions like open range or something like that. Like if you have your house on like the open range. So I feel like they probably will have some type of smaller, limited player housing in a safe space. But if you want more, bigger, if you want to design it yourself and you get more out of it, then yeah, you have to actually put risk it and put it out in the world.
Come on, you cannot honestly fucking tell me that you don't want this. And the thing is and to go back onto my point about narrative from earlier in the news segment, you have to, I think, let go of the idea of the concept of a very strict narrative that's being dictated by the game. And I think that this is where you have to go, yeah, your narrative is going to be dictated by your players and the player community and the history that the players weave inside the game itself. And I think that is a lot more interesting to me, at least, than I've finished the main storyline. Wait for the next piece of content injection. In this way, content, and narrative is constantly being driven by the player community.
Not to mention, you always have a reason to log in. It's not like, all right, I have the best gear now, I'm going to log out and wait. Yeah. You need to constantly make sure that you have enough gold, you have enough resources, because you never know when something might happen. The more you play,
can log out and your entire house will be destroyed when you log back in.
That could be possible. There could be some type of built-in. I don't know.
No. I think that should be possible.
Someone destroys it.
But the idea that the more you play, the more you accrue, the more prepared you are, there is no upper cap. You can always be accruing more strength, more wealth. Fine, yeah, you log on, your house has been destroyed. Well, it's a good thing that I have enough, wealth built up and saved up to re-erect it.
Yeah, what happened, Callie in Eve, what happens when someone's Star Destroyer that they've been building for 3 fucking years, what happens when it gets blown up?
Yeah, Callie. He's not in the room.
No.
But in Eve, we've actually mentioned this before, is that there are actual insurance agencies in Eve. So you can take out actual policies. So if you're...
What?
Yeah. Basically, there are
But
players,
it's a loss. To answer the question that I posed to an empty chair, you take the loss. You take as the player, you take that fucking loss.
Yeah, so... After all this conversation, the biggest thing that I'm concerned about is the same reason that I don't want to get into Eve, and that's once it's been around for so long, then the difficulty curve or it's going to be really steep. Like, how do new players necessarily get into this if everybody in it is already like super mega progressed?
You got to rely on the veteran players. It's not actually that different from the way that MMOs operate now, because if you want resources in the early game, you do need to rely on other players to give you context or to give you resources or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, look, Bear's excited. Man, I can't wait to join the Homeowners Insurance Guild in this game. I'll sell Dragon and Griefer policies at a premium.
Dude, you laugh, but Eve has an insurance company in it. Player run.
We were actually just talking about that, and I'll pose it since you were out of the room again. What happens when someone who has been building a starship or a base in Eve for like the better part of 3 or 4 years and plugging tons of resources, like tons of players are plugging in tons of resources? What happens when there's a raid on that and it gets blown up?
It's gone.
It's gone. Why is that the worst thing in the world?
Yeah, no, people like have spent months working on like a Titan and losing one. Like, oh my God, yeah, there was a story of a whole group. They were trying to caravan out of a station.
Yes.
And one of their Titans got picked off on the way. And it was like something like $30,000 actual dollars worth of investment in it.
Yeah.
And it was just gone.
Yeah.
It got blown up, and the guy, oh my God, the better part was the guy who was piloting it got potted, which means he lost all the implants and all the skills he'd learned to pilot it.
Carletta says, hey, bub, time to pay your insurance, or, something bad might happen to you. You know what? That's entirely possible. Like, going up to someone like, look, pay me, I'm going to destroy your house. And at that point, you know what's going to come into play? Stuff like the Moonglow Defense Force.
Look, such a shame would be if something was to happen to your house.
The thing is I mean, you guys give me shit about that, but it was actually something that happened in game to, like there were hordes of undead that would occasionally rise, and Moonglow, for some reason, for I think it was a period of a couple of months, was seeing that disproportionately, and so it was a bunch of different guilds and factions that kind of banded together to make it. Yeah. And to end up making a console.
That's history right there. The formation of the Moonglow Defense Force.
But I mean, it is something that I still remember to this day clearly.
Yeah.
And something that most modern MMOs don't have. Like most guilds now, like the Moonglow Defense Force was started as like a response to a threat, right? Mm-hmm. Like there was a
just
direct
like it
threat.
Would be in an actual real fantasy life type deal.
Exactly, and it was less of it was like a story driven, like a story necessitated
someone
guild.
Didn't just log on and be like, oh, I want to make a guild today. Let's make a defense force.
Right.
It was necessary,
right.
As a response to stuff that was happening in the game,
and that never happens anymore in MMOs. MMOs. Your guild is your collection of friends, and that's it.
For me,
and it's just another chat channel.
For me, this will be my first Kickstarter that I ever contribute to, and I will play this game at launch when it comes out. And here's the thing: even if they can't live up to their promises and can't live up to what they're trying to make here, at least it's an MMO that is operating on design philosophies that I agree with for an MMO. They're trying to do the things that I want to see in an MMO.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about how, or at least I've mentioned how I think the next big thing is going to be when someone can properly take the whole Minecraft, Ark Survival Evolved, Conan Exiles, type design and put some type of narrative in it and put it on an MMO scale. You're right. Even if this does fail, people are now trying to do that. They're starting to do that, and they're not going to be the first.
Yeah.
Or they're not going to be the last. Sorry.
I also have to wonder if at least one of the cities, like just one of the cities, is a server
town?
Yeah, because that's the thing is that I do remember Newbie Town being a thing, and it wasn't, at least early on in stuff like Ultima Online, but then they ended up creating an entirely separate island that introduced you to the first a little bit of content. So I think that there is ways to do that to make it friendly to a new player or incoming player, or allow them to learn or gather some resources
themselves before going out and joining the greater. And that's the thing too.
Most games do have a noob area.
Yeah, and that that's a good thing to point out too, especially because these people seem so willing to adapt and innovate, that as they go through this process, if there are some things that don't work or that the community seems particularly resistant against, they can rework them. They can find new ways to go about it, or new systems to implement to help facilitate this grand design that they have.
I also like the idea that this sort of lends itself to the idea of slow drip content feeding, where instead of getting a 3-month downtime in between content patches, that they can, in very direct and dynamic ways, end up adjusting the cause and effect that ends up, necessitating one of these big events.
How much ore has the dwarf town dug up? Oh, they're at 49 million. We'll get that dragon event ready.
Right.
And your patch notes could literally have nothing about content in them if you want. It could just be changes.
No, or like with what Elite Dangerously is doing, where you have things that happen and you have no idea when it was added to the game. You have no idea what triggered that.
Yep.
And that's the thing, is that when we have all of these different gauges and values and on-screen things that we're trying to control and have an impact in, it loses, what we're doing loses some of the mystery. Like I like that about video games, that I don't need to know all of the integers and values that are needed to be able to make this game work on a mathematical level. Like, there are some people who,
jerk off to that.
Yeah, that's their shit. But that's not me. I like, that sort of mystical aspect of like, oh, this sword works better than this sword. And then you talk to someone who's like, well, it's because it has 6 more value points in it. And you're like, shut the fuck up. I don't really care.
Forget patch notes.
And that's the thing, is that if you, I'm sure that there are going to be people who end up breaking this down and doing dat digs and, coming up with this very analytical way of playing the game, and you can figure out what causes what, but you know what? That mystery has got to be there for at least a little bit. I mean, in FF11, there definitely were people who were dedicated to finding out those secrets, but how long did Absolute Virtue stonewall?
I was going to say, it's one thing to find a character model. Like, okay, we know a dragon exists in the game. You don't necessarily know how to get to it, because imagine how long it took people to map something like Salvage out.
Right.
We knew what the bosses were. We knew what the armor looked like, but that didn't mean that we could figure out how to get it.
Right. Exactly. And I think if that's your main design flaw, if that's your design philosophy,
and,
you know what I mean? Like, I like that.
Someone's saying, oh, well, too bad we live in the age of data mining and wikis. Well, again, just because we know that a dragon's there, we don't know how to pop it, right? How to make this event happen. And what if that event is stuck behind something like this city has to get built up, and on your particular server, that city is a barren wasteland. Well, guess what? Good luck, just because you know how to do it, actually getting it done.
I mean, again, drawing the parallels back to 11, it's like that Fey Lux, the Shadow Lord fight in the past. I wanted the fucking great sword from that. I wanted the armor from that, because it was just some of my favorite in the game. But on our server, we never took the northern
never had Zarkabard's Shadow Rain.
Exactly.
Yep.
And just by virtue of that, I never even got to try it. And do I wish I did? Yes. Do I wish I did to this day? Yes. But you know what? I'm not going to sit there and be like, I demand to be able to do Fey Lux, and it's not fair that it should be always open. And like that kind of fucking fit throwing
it's terrible.
is the kind of shit that has, I think, really ruined World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV, because as soon as you start kowtowing to that attitude, it doesn't stop.
It doesn't never create memories either. You know, Chris made a joke earlier about Tremas. That was an actual thing that happened in World of Warcraft, where some players were able to train some elite dragon from way down south into Stormwind, and every time it would kill something, its health would reset and regenerate. Yeah. And all day it was just wrecking havoc everywhere until they were finally able to like get it up into the palace where all the big NPCs were to kill it. It was amazing.
Someone did that with Lord Kazak in that game too.
Yeah,
he just destroyed noobs all day.
And that's the thing, is that those types of events are always remembered far more than, what was 2015 seasonal event? You know what I mean? Like, you get the items from that shit, but then it ends up collecting dust in your inventory. Why does that matter? Like, what purpose does that serve? Why should I give a shit as a player? But no, I mean, if you have either, more emphasis on community run type events, or you have a player history, every day, every moment you're not logged in, you're missing potential history.
Something else I'd like to, obviously these developers probably aren't going to hear this, but I don't want regional like servers, like American server, Japan server. You know what? Put everybody on everything.
Yeah. And
that just creates difficulties with lag, though. That's why there's regional servers. Like,
that's true.
You
I'll
can
give
make
you
a
that.
character on a Japanese server right now if you wanted to in 14. It's just you don't because of the location of the server.
I'll give you that. No, that's fair. That's fair.
But that is one of the things that I missed from FF11 is, French players, Spanish players, Japanese players, American, everybody being able to interact. And sure, in some cases, people I wasn't able to get into a JP party because I'm American. All right, well, too bad. But, that's just one of the things that added to the diversity of the game.
Yeah, but 11 was so much slower paced, you could get away with the latency issues.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm really interested to end up seeing what...
have they mentioned anything about like how combat system is going to work or classes?
No, not really.
No.
Not really. Just a few
and that concerns me a little bit.
Yeah. A few things to throw out there. They said that as of now, they're looking at like a late 2018 release and the beta opening as early as next year.
Wow.
I'm excited. I've not been excited for a new MMO.
How much are you going to drop on the Kickstarter?
Depends on how much I have. See, I want that $500 level where you get a lifetime subscription.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I don't have that money, and I'm not doing it.
Okay.
Especially, what if you drop that $500? It really sucks, and the game goes down.
Yeah,
it would suck. I mean, but again, part of this for me is... it's a game that's being developed on the philosophies that I want in an MMO. I'm willing to support
Which is something that I've always thought, Kickstarter was about, not just as a company to get money, right? But as a consumer, to put your money behind something that you believe in. Not just what am I getting out of this, right? I actually believe... the only one that I've ever donated to was Roll20, because there's never been an app like that before, and it's something that, role players online with friends all over the world needed, right? I don't even really use it that much anymore, but I think I'm still paying like a $5 subscription because I believe in that product and what it does.
And that's what this is. 14 was developed on a system of philosophies that I really don't agree with, and is still running on those philosophies, and that's frustrating. It's never-ending frustration for me.
Yeah.
Whereas this game is being developed the way I want an MMO to be.
Yeah. No, and that's true. And I think, our passion for something like FF14 is much more driven by the legacy of the Final Fantasy franchise than necessarily a whole lot of game philosophy or game design philosophy that we agree with. I think, therein sort of lies the heart of the conflict between Limit Break Radio as a show and Square Enix. It's why...
the eternal conflict.
Yeah, it's why we end up taking kind of a bit of a antagonistic role with Square Enix, because there are design philosophies that they have even, and some of those design philosophies came directly from Square Enix in the way that they managed and ran Final Fantasy XI. Yep. So, it is both frustrating and disheartening to see them take it in a different direction that you necessarily don't agree with. I am not as confident in this. I don't think I'm ready to lay down the money just yet. I need to see a little bit more, like the combat system, and I need to be sold on the world a little bit more, because as I said at the start, this is sort of generic fantasy-ish. It's not that I'm not willing to buy into a world like that. I definitely am, as is evidenced by my ability to get into any of the Elder Scrolls games.
Right.
But with that, you have to also recognize that there's a level of quality that came along with the Elder Scrolls games that most other games can't live up to. And to have that expectation, I think is pretty... I think that's pretty unreasonable. So I think the big two things for me are going to be the combat system and the way that this whole node system ends up shaking out. If it shakes out the way that we've kind of thought about it, I think it's brilliant, and I think it'll be a really, really fun game, and I'll absolutely want to be in on the ground floor. But there's so many variables here that could turn this into a total clusterfuck that I need to watch from the sidelines before I'm able to make a call on it.
I want to be there on day one when there's nothing and be a part of that original creation of the world.
I mean, it's definitely going to be an interesting experience, and that's the thing, is it's going to be an experience.
Yeah.
And I hope that they get enough of a player base underneath them to be able to...
Well, if the Kickstarter is any indication...
Yeah, the demand's there for a game like this.
They have over 12,500 backers in that 2.2 mil so far.
Wow.
That's a lot.
In 20 days.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That is definitely. But yeah, I think that's a good point, that there is definitely a will for this style of gameplay that... I'm actually gonna hazard to say that a lot of the big MMO developers have really discounted.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and I know a lot of people have been saying too, like, I mean, there's all those crazy articles that are like, our MMO is dying, but I mean, in a sense, people like don't have time for the current type of MMO, or they just don't. The current style doesn't appeal to people, like you're saying, and I think that this is the direction MMOs need to take to keep them relevant.
Yeah, because engagement, I think, is the biggest problem at the moment. Like, keeping me engaged in an MMO is difficult.
Yeah, well, and what this does is it sets like this expectation that you're going to miss things, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you want to experience as much as you can. So you have the desire to play, but when you're gone for a little bit, or if you have to leave, you're like, all right, the expectation is there that I'm going to miss some stuff.
That's fair. I also think that a game like this would probably be way more willing to set caps and do things like, lateral character expansion instead of, constantly moving the goalposts forward. Yeah. And again, I think that that's all to the benefit of the world, because as soon as, what happens when you get to a level cap is that all of the gear and all of the armor starts to look like uber shit. Like, it starts to look like fucking awesome. It's got, weapon glows and stuff like this. But now, as we're going into the third expansion of Final Fantasy, what do you do to make, and specifically for 14, what do you do to make the next round of weapons seem more special? You've already got badass demonic looking weapons that have this great glow that are now completely irrelevant. But so what? Yeah, but how do you keep making the next definitively badass looking weapon? I don't think you do.
And it's the same thing we say about every single time new armor comes out. I mean, it looks cool, but it also looks like everything we've had up until this point.
Yeah, I've seen it before.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that this, you actually have the ability to, you're resetting all of the expectations. So if, your gear 1 to 30 looks just like, your average foot soldier gear, maybe that's not the worst thing in the world, because when you get to that player cap or that level cap, then you'll actually be getting badass gear that looks badass for a fucking reason, and it stays that way.
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of stuff that I want to see out of MMOs. So, all right. Well, I think that's going to do it for time here today on Final Encountercast. Thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Not you guys.
Oh, you're still welcome.
No, me.
You're not welcome.
I want to thank all 136 of you that are watching live right now on twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio. I don't know what happened to our chat room. I honestly, there have been weird engineering issues this morning. So I'm really unsure of what's going on with our chat room, but I want to thank you guys for hanging out, for chatting along with us, and for discussing the new MMO Ashes of Creation. If this is your first time joining us for the show, hit that follow button and join us each and every single Sunday when we sit down to do Final Encountercast. If you haven't yet, go subscribe to the Checkpoint podcast, because one of the things, and we forgot to mention this at the beginning, but one of the things that we're doing now with the Checkpoint podcast is we're making sure that the conversations that we have there are not conversations that we've had here on Final Encountercast or on the Checkpoint Radio show. So if you subscribe to the Checkpoint podcast and you're just a big fan of Final Encountercast, you'll be able to walk away with a unique discussion from that. So you're not just going to listen to us rehash conversations that we have already had here or that we've already had on the radio show. It's a completely unique discussion that you can only get through the Checkpoint Radio podcast. We've got about 2,000 people who are subscribed because we don't get to run it. We get analytics reports now.
Really?
We get analytics reports from Westwood One.
3 episodes and we have 2,000 subscribers already?
That's right.
Whoa!
That's right. So thank you to the 2,000 of you guys that have already started downloading the show and listening. We really appreciate it. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to get feedback on any of our shows, whether it's Final Encountercast, Checkpoint, or the Checkpoint podcast. We'd love to hear from you, and you can contact us. We've got all of that information over at our website, finalencountercast.com. All right, that's going to do it here for Final Encountercast. If you're listening live and you want to stick around for Limit Break Radio, that's coming up next here on twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio starting at 4 p.m. If you're listening on the podcast, Limit Break Radio comes out on Tuesdays over at limitbreakradio.com. And if you want to listen live, again, 1 p.m. here on twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio. I want to thank everyone for listening right now. I want to thank Kooky Persona, who's been hanging out, managing our non-existent calls today, as well as I think Skuro is around. He's probably...
No, he's not. No,
he left.
left. He had something he had to do today.
Well, fuck off, Skuro. And I also want to thank my crew, of course, Nika Kayani and Callie Sloan, Robbie Landis, and Chris. Did we ever establish what your last name is on the show?
He was supposed to be Christoph.
Chris Fat. Chris Fat. Chris Fat. That's fine. We're good with that. All right. Well, I'm Nate Bender. We'll see you next time. Final Encountercast is a production of finalencountercast.com, Limit Break Radio, and Bender Media Productions. Today's episode was produced by Kooky Persona and Callie Sloan. This show is made possible by the generous Patreon donors of the podcast Limit Break Radio. Opening music provided by Keyboard Kid. More info and music can be found at keyboardkid206.bandcamp.com. Closing music provided by Sobsy. For more info, visit sobsy.bandcamp.com. Final Encountercast and its hosts are solely responsible for its content.